Malik Scott, how you doing today, man?
I'm doing good, brother. Came to the press conference. Deontay didn't make it, so like always, I'm his third eye. I'm his head trainer, and I got his back, so I came in to support the cause, man. And I'm looking forward to Robert Helenius coming with everything he's got. He's a very underrated heavyweight. He's a very deceiving heavyweight. He's strong. He's deceivingly fast. I've seen him hurt people in close quarters. I've seen him hurt people long range. He has a great IQ. He's awkward. He looks slow, but he's really not. He's not a gym fighter. We sparred him tons of times, but he's not good in sparring. He's good when it's time to be good, and that's under the lights. So it's a very dangerous fight, and it's a very dangerous fight coming off of him having 2 good wins. So for Deontay to pick this guy for his first fight back, it says a lot about Deontay and the mission that he's on, and him believing in high-level matchmaking in this game. It goes to show that he believes in high-level matchmaking, and that's what keeps boxing alive. High-level matchmaking, not just regular fights. If people want to, if they want people to stay behind boxing, and doesn't want the UFC to overhaul boxing, matchmaking like this have to continue to go on. And I know I'm gonna get a lot of slack for that, because most people I'm going to get slack from that from is people that don't know Robert Helenius the way I do. I was supposed to fight him before. I've been in tons of camps with him before. I've film studied him for the last probably 10, 12 years. And this is another thing that people have to keep in mind. There's an interview that has been going around ever since the great late Emanuel Stewart passed away. And in that interview, Emanuel Stewart said, if I had to pick 2 guys that's great, I would say Deontay Wilder and Tyson Fury is the future. In that same interview, he said there's another guy named Robert Helenius, but if I had to pick, I would pick Deontay and Fury. But there's another guy named Robert Helenius. Emanuel Stewart, fuck what I'm saying. Emanuel Stewart said that this guy was the real deal. Years later, we're right here fighting him at the Barclays Center October 15th. And it's a dangerous fight, and Deontay is preparing for such as a dangerous fight. And what we're doing, I believe Deontay should take him out surgically with tons of humility, and I'm looking for him to make a great statement.
Was it your idea to have Deontay kind of, strip away a lot of the muscle that he had put on going into the Tyson Fury fight?
A lot of people were saying Deontay seems so tired in the trilogy. Well, Deontay never was that big ever in a fight before. So once again, you got to give him credit for trying things. He wanted to put some bulk on so he didn't just get pushed around. Bulk came on. He had good moments in the fight. Obviously, he got tired. The bulk probably wore on him a little bit. I'm not, as much as I train him, as close as I am to him, I'm not in the ring with him. I can't tell you how he's feeling in the ring. But like you guys and like boxing people, if we had to add things up and say, hold on, this is the biggest he ever been, but this is the most tiredest I've ever seen him this early. 1 + 1 is 2. You know what I mean? And that's just like, that just goes with that. Like, you know what I mean? I think the weight may have been a factor, maybe not. But if I had to bet on it, I would say him being as big as he was for that fight and him looking as tired as he did to most people, maybe the weight did have a factor. But either way, as you can tell, that so-called wrong has been made right, because when you look at him now, he's lean and mean.
Does a part of you kind of want to see Usyk defeat Tyson Fury, only because if Tyson was to win the fight, he's undisputed. They've already had 3 fights. It's highly unlikely that they have a 4th. Right. So if Usyk wins, then it's like, okay, that's new blood. It's a new experience. So it's like, are you kind of rooting for Usyk so he can get that fight?
I wouldn't say. My perspective is not like that. I can tell you what my perspective is on Tyson Fury fighting Usyk. I think Usyk has the ability. He has the IQ. He has the underrated strength. He has an incredible foundation to beat Tyson Fury. So if that did happen, I just look at it like that's just the cards that was dealt. If Usyk beat him, if Fury wins, then Fury wins. Either way, I just believe that Deontay is big time boxing. A lot of people saying there's a lot of names out there for him to fight. No, not really. It's not. When you're a big time fighter like that, I don't consider all of them. He fighting Robert Helenius on his first fight back. He coming off of 2 losses, correct? Mm-hmm. Robert Helenius is coming off of his 2 biggest wins. Mm-hmm. The risk. This goes back to the risk that Deontay is always willing to take. the risk when Ortiz wasn't his mandatory, and he took that, and the fight was so good that Deontay said, let's do it again. Ortiz wasn't his mandatory. He's a risk-taking fighter. I don't care what no promoters say, what no fighters say. I only go off of database facts. He's a risk-taking. The trilogy, he was taking risks. Like, you know what I mean? So it's like, if Usyk win, I would love to see Deontay fight Usyk. I actually think as far as what it takes to beat Usyk, in my opinion, is not the Fury style. It's not the Fury effect. I think if you don't have a one-hitter quitter to get him out of there and put him out cold, I don't think you beat him.
So does that mean that you're favoring Usyk to beat Tyson, actually?
Yes. Yes, and I've said that before. I believe Usyk is a master at finding ways to win. I believe as far as technical ability, being technically sound. So we'll say this. So people say, you think Usyk is going to be Tyson Fury? Yeah, but if what's the southpaw name that they call Wallow? Ottawale. If that southpaw, that guy's not Usyk. His foundation, he's a good fighter, but his base and his system is not like Usyk's system. And look at the kind of trouble he gave Tyson Fury. So Tyson Fury is such a hot and cold guy. One day he could get in there with Tyson, he could get in there with Deontay Wilder, he could get in there with Dillian Whyte and have great nights, and he could get in there with somebody like the guy we just named, the southpaw, and look very like, oh, that wasn't it. That's it, that it was entertaining. So depending on the night, who shows up at the highest level, that's who wins the fight. But this is by far no just walk in the park for Tyson Fury. By far not.
He's been in the ring with both. Can Alexander Usyk hurt Tyson Fury?
Can Alexander Usyk hurt Tyson Fury? I think if Steve Cunningham can hurt Tyson Fury, Usyk can.
But is that really fair, though? Because that fight was about 10 years ago or something like that. So is that kind of fair? Because Tyson is a whole different fighter at this point.
But now, he is a whole different fighter. But stylistically, the style that he fought Steve Cunningham with is the style he fights now with. He wasn't boxing when he fought Steve Cunningham. He was trying to impose himself. So now, look, how does Tyson fight now? He imposed himself. So now, yeah, that was 10, 12 years ago, but he has brought that style back. Now, do I think Usyk can beat Tyson Fury that fought Deontay the first time? Absolutely not. That Fury, that herky-jerky style, no, can't too many beat that. But he's more vulnerable now. He fought Deontay Wilder 3 times. Fuck what I'm saying. He's told people, I have lumps in my head, I have all types of damage. His chip was being chipped away as well. Usyk just was in 2 fights with AJ. His chip is being chipped away as well. Like, you know what I mean? So I don't look at Fury as like, he gonna come and just lean or put his weight on Alexander Usyk. Alexander Usyk actually fights, to me, taller guys bigger. Because think, Tyson Fury beat Derek Chisora in incredible fashion. He fought him southpaw the whole time, right? Mm-hmm. Derek, when Chisora gets in with Usyk, and to me, give him a hell of a run. Like, you get what I'm saying? It's all about the styles. It's all about the night of the fight. Anybody that's under Usyk or his style, the Michael Hunters, the Derek Chisoras, any of those guys that is like under him or his size, them the guys he really have some kind of trouble with. Big guys, he don't really have trouble with like that. But Fury's not the average big guy. Like, you know what I mean? He's just not the average. It's a lot that comes with Fury, with his system. And it's a great fight, man. It's a great fight.
You come from the Fred Jenkins School of Boxing.
That's my father.
If there's, what are some of the things that he passed down to you that you passed down to Wilder?
Basics. Keep the proper amount of space in between your legs. Drill stepping to the left, drill stepping to the right, drill stepping forward, drill stepping back. So what does that mean? That means if you drill stepping forward and you drill stepping back and left to right, you're becoming what? More of a complete fighter in all directions. You'll be surprised how many fighters at the highest level that when they go to their right, they become limited. I see it all the time. Some guys, when they go to their left, they become limited. Some guys, when they back up, they become limited. Some guys not that effective when they go forward. This goes on so much if you film study the way that I do. So what I try to do is with Fred Jenkins and even Emmanuel Stewart and Harold the Shadow Knight passed on to me. To become a complete fighter, you have to know how to do everything. You have to practice everything. If someone was to ask me my style of teaching is, I think every fighter should know how to do everything. So we'll say, the high guard. You hear some people say, well, you shouldn't have your hands up like that, and they absolutely right. But I don't know one fighter I've ever seen not put their hands right here. So if you know you may have to do that, even if it's for the sake of an emergency, don't you think you should know how to do it? We'll talk about clinching. People hate clinching. I'm a huge fan of clinching when it's done the right way with intent. Because how many fighters do you see that get stopped just from taking punches? They don't know how to clinch and buy time and kill the clock. These are things Fred Jinkies used to drill as a kid. These are things that I teach guys when I box. These are things that I have so much. I'm so not insecure that I'm not a wrestling teacher, I'm not an MMA teacher, but I'll go and bring a wrestling teacher in to help my guy. I'll go and bring an MMA guy in to help my guy with clinching. And that's the Fred Jenkins way, to use what you got and go get more to get what you want. And that's what I pass on, not just to my fighters, even to my kids. Fred Jenkins just wasn't my teacher. He was somebody that saved me from the hardcore streets of North Philadelphia, because if it wasn't for him, I'd be somewhere else. Fred Jenkins is somebody that would come, my mom couldn't find me at night time. I'm trying to rip around the street. Fred would get out of his bed at 2, 3 o'clock in the morning, leave his family, find me at whatever corner I was hanging out at, grab me, throw me in his van, take me back to my mom's house and say, if I ever catch you out here again, I'm gonna kick your fucking ass. And had the permission from my mom to do it. So it lies deeper than just boxing with Fred Jenkins. So it's almost like the way how he is in the gym with me is the way how he was in real life with me as well. Like, you know what I mean? So I'll pass that on just not to fighters, but also to my kids.
Speaking of training, this last fight with AJ, that was his first official fight with Robert Garcia. Did you see some improvements?
Absolutely.
And do you kind of think that AJ, I don't know, where do you think his career kind of goes from here now?
It's like I told the guy that just was here, I think AJ should just sit around, rest up, and wait for us to beat Robert Helenius, and then get back motivated and get back focused. Because I heard they want to fight November and December. To get right to it, I think AJ and Deontay Wilder should fight in the near future once we take care of Helenius. First things first, Helenius, like I said, I can't get him on my mind. I think about him all day, every day. I film study him at least 6 to 7. Last night was 4 hours. I film studied him. I'm just on him. And this is somebody I've been watching for years, but it's just never enough because I'm slightly paranoid about him. I'm paranoid because he's sneaky. I'm paranoid about him because he's deceiving. I'm paranoid about him because he's better than what he looked. And it's my job as a teacher to make sure Deontay is on point, alert, aware, and still violent and surgical at the same time.
How do you feel about a possible matchup with Andy Ruiz? Do you think he's more dangerous than Anthony Joshua?
Possibly, because he's under us, and he's under us, and he's not slow. Andy Ruiz is under you fast, and if you get too greedy with him, he'll clip you. Especially Dirrell Washington told me something that made a lot of sense, and when I look at Andy and I'm studying him as well, I noticed that he really get guys when they go 3, 4, 5 shots and trying to get off. You get greedy with them and you don't handle them accordingly. So to handle someone accordingly, I'm about to say the R word that's going to come across weak in boxing. You have to respect them, but you got to respect them from a killer standpoint. You have to respect them and say, this guy is good. I have to respect him, but by me respecting him, I'm going to take. Floyd is the most humble fighter in boxing, bro. He tricked people with his marketing ability, but I've never seen Floyd get in there with a pure puncher and step right to him. No, he handled them accordingly. He respects them because they're killers, so respect them as such, and then he takes their weapons away. That's, to me, how you beat an Andy Ruiz. You have to know who he is, respect his strength, take it away, and then surgically get rid of him.
Can Luis Ortiz do that at this stage in his career, or do you think
it's going to be very tough? It's going to be very tough. I think Andy is a lot more motivated right now. I think he's training hard. He's looking good in the videos. Since he switched trainers, I know the training videos doesn't hold high value to people, but he's looking better. He's looking more fit. I know what people saying he's looked more fit before, but I think he's a lot more motivated now. And he's been kind of in a rut for so long, like not active, that I'm sure he wants to make a statement. And one thing we know for sure, Andy's going to come to fight. Ortiz is very crafty, has a good punch. He's southpaw, has incredible pedigree. So we got to see where it goes. It's a 50-50 fight, man. It's a very entertaining fight. I do not see it going a distance.
If you got to lay money on the wheel, you got winning.
I said I'm going back and forth. See, like right now, I'm gonna say Ortiz to you guys, then tomorrow, or when I think about it for 3 more hours, I'm gonna say Ruiz. But if I was a betting man, I had to bet. It's just tough, man. It's tough because Andy is not slow. If Andy was a tad bit slow, I would pick Ortiz. But the fact that he's fast, it gives me a slight worry.